Imagine standing in a landscape where the horizon stretches endlessly, barren and lifeless. The air is thick with dust, and the once fertile soil now lies desolate and cracked. Dust storms rage, engulfing entire communities and leaving behind a trail of destruction. This isn't a scene from a distant planet or a post-apocalyptic movie. This is happening here on Earth right now. Welcome to the stark reality of desertification. This insidious process is transforming vast areas of our planet into deserts, with dire consequences for ecosystems, human livelihoods, and global stability. But how did we get here? Why is our world turning to dust, and what can we do to stop it? In this video, we'll embark on a journey to understand desertification, exploring its causes, impacts, and the urgent need for action. By the end, you'll have a clear understanding of why this issue matters and what we can do to combat it. So let's dive in and uncover the mysteries behind one of the most pressing environmental challenges of our time. Chapter 2: What is desertification? To grasp the full scope of desertification, we first need to define it clearly. Desertification is the process by which fertile land becomes desert, typically as a result of drought, deforestation, or inappropriate agricultural practices. This phenomenon is not just a natural occurrence, it is predominantly driven by human activities. Desertification starts with the degradation of soil. Imagine a lush green landscape thriving with vegetation. Now picture what happens when trees are cut down, the land is overgrazed by livestock, and crops are grown intensively without allowing the soil to recover. The protective cover of vegetation disappears, leaving the soil exposed to the elements. Without plants to anchor it, the soil becomes susceptible to erosion by wind and water. Rainfall, instead of being absorbed, runs off quickly, taking the topsoil with it. Over time, the soil loses its nutrients and its ability to retain water, turning it into barren, lifeless dust. Climate change exacerbates this process. Rising temperatures and changing precipitation patterns lead to prolonged droughts and extreme weather events, further stressing the already fragile ecosystems. As the land degrades, it becomes less productive, leading to a vicious cycle of poverty, food insecurity, and environmental degradation. But make no mistake, desertification is primarily a man-made problem. Human activities, such as unsustainable farming, deforestation, and improper water management, are the main drivers of this environmental crisis. Understanding these causes is crucial for developing effective solutions to combat desertification. Chapter 3: Where is it happening? Desertification is a global issue affecting millions of people across various continents. Let's take a closer look at some of the regions most impacted by this phenomenon. In Africa, the Sahel region, a semi-arid zone stretching from Senegal to Sudan, is one of the most affected areas. Once rich in biodiversity and resources, the Sahel is now grappling with severe land degradation. Overgrazing, deforestation, and poor agricultural practices have stripped the land of its vegetation cover, making it vulnerable to erosion. The consequences are dire: water scarcity, crop failures, and the displacement of entire communities. The Gobi Desert in Asia is another hotspot for desertification. This vast desert, which spans parts of northern China and southern Mongolia, is expanding southward at an alarming rate. In China, desertification threatens the livelihoods of millions of people. Dust storms originating from the Gobi Desert frequently reach major cities like Beijing, causing respiratory problems and reducing air quality. Australia too is facing the harsh realities of desertification. Large portions of the continent, particularly in the interior, are experiencing severe land degradation. Prolonged droughts, exacerbated by climate change, have led to the decline of agricultural productivity and the loss of native vegetation. The impact on local communities, especially farmers, is profound as they struggle to adapt to the changing environment. The economic and social costs of desertification are staggering. In affected regions, agricultural productivity declines, leading to food insecurity and increased poverty. Communities are forced to migrate in search of better opportunities, straining urban infrastructure and resources. The loss of biodiversity and ecosystem services further exacerbates the problem, making it harder for the land to recover. Desertification also has broader implications for global stability. As resources become scarcer, Competition for land and water can lead to conflicts and social unrest. The displacement of people creates humanitarian crises and increases the burden on already vulnerable populations. In summary, desertification is a widespread and multifaceted problem with far-reaching consequences. It affects some of the most vulnerable regions of the world, disrupting ecosystems, economies, and societies. Addressing this issue requires a comprehensive understanding of its causes and impacts, as well as a commitment to sustainable practices and policies. Chapter 4: The Human Factor. To understand the root causes of desertification, we must delve deeper into the specific human activities driving this phenomenon. Human actions have a profound impact on the environment, and desertification is a stark example of how unsustainable practices can degrade our natural landscapes. One of the primary drivers of desertification is unsustainable agricultural practices. Traditional farming methods, such as overplowing, intensive monocropping, and the excessive use of chemical fertilizers and pesticides, strip the soil of its nutrients and disrupt its structure. Without proper soil management, the land loses its fertility and becomes prone to erosion. The repeated planting of the same crop on the same land, known as monocropping, depletes the soil of specific nutrients, weakening its ability to support future crops. Excessive water use, particularly for irrigation, is another major contributor to desertification. In many arid and semi-arid regions, water is a scarce resource, yet it is often used inefficiently. Traditional irrigation methods, such as flood irrigation, result in significant water loss through evaporation and runoff. Over time, this depletes local water sources, reducing the availability of water for both agriculture and natural ecosystems. Additionally, poor water management can lead to soil salinization, where salt accumulates in the soil, further degrading its fertility. Poor land management practices, such as deforestation and overgrazing, also play a critical role in desertification. Deforestation, often driven by the demand for agricultural land and timber, removes the trees and vegetation that protect the soil from erosion. Without this protective cover, the soil is exposed to wind and rain, which quickly erode the topsoil. Overgrazing by livestock has a similar effect. When too many animals graze on the same land, they consume the vegetation faster than it can regenerate. This leads to soil compaction and erosion, leaving the land barren. Population growth and urbanization add to the pressure on land resources. As populations grow, the demand for food, water, and land increases. This often leads to the expansion of agricultural activities into marginal lands that are not suitable for intensive farming. Urbanization further exacerbates the problem by converting natural landscapes into built environments, reducing the amount of land available for agriculture and conservation. Interviews with experts and on-the-ground footage provide insight into these issues. Dr. Emily Carter, an environmental scientist, explains, "Desertification is a complex issue with multiple contributing factors. Human activities such as unsustainable farming and deforestation are primary drivers. However, the underlying causes are often socio-economic, including poverty, lack of education, and inadequate access to resources. Real-life examples highlight the human impact on the environment. In regions like the Sahel, farmers practice slash-and-burn agriculture, where they clear forests and burn the vegetation to create farmland. While this provides short-term fertility, it depletes the soil in the long run, leading to desertification. Similarly, in parts of India, excessive groundwater extraction for irrigation has led to the depletion of aquifers, reducing water availability and contributing to land degradation. Chapter 5: The Ripple Effect. Desertification has far-reaching and severe consequences that extend beyond the immediate loss of fertile land. The environmental, economic, and social impacts of desertification create a ripple effect that affects ecosystems, food security, migration patterns, and global stability. One of the most significant consequences of desertification is the loss of biodiversity. As fertile land becomes desert, the diverse range of plant and animal species that once thrived in these ecosystems struggle to survive. Habitats are destroyed, and species that depend on specific environmental conditions face extinction. The loss of biodiversity reduces the resilience of ecosystems, making them more vulnerable to further degradation and less capable of providing essential services such as clean water and air. Food insecurity and famine are direct results of desertification. As agricultural productivity declines, communities face hunger and malnutrition. In regions heavily dependent on agriculture, such as the Sahel, crop failures due to degraded soil and erratic rainfall patterns lead to food shortages. Families are forced to reduce their food intake, and malnutrition becomes widespread, particularly among children. The lack of adequate food supply exacerbates poverty and weakens the social fabric of affected communities. Migration is another consequence of desertification. As people lose their livelihoods and face increasingly harsh living conditions, they are forced to move to urban areas or other countries in search of work and better living conditions. This migration can strain resources in receiving areas, leading to social tensions and competition for jobs, housing, and services. The displacement of people creates humanitarian crises and increases the burden on already vulnerable populations. Desertification also contributes to conflict and social instability. Competition for scarce resources, such as water and arable land, can lead to tensions and violence between communities. In regions like the Sahel, where desertification is rampant, conflicts over grazing rights and water sources are common. These conflicts disrupt social cohesion and hinder development efforts, creating a cycle of poverty and instability. Climate change and desertification are interconnected in a feedback loop. Desertification exacerbates climate change by reducing the land's ability to sequester carbon. Vegetation and healthy soil act as carbon sinks, absorbing carbon dioxide from the atmosphere. When these are lost, carbon is released back into the atmosphere, contributing to global warming. Conversely, climate change accelerates desertification by altering rainfall patterns and increasing the frequency and severity of droughts. Chapter 6: A Race Against Time. This environmental crisis is accelerating, and if left unchecked, it could become irreversible. Time-lapse footage and satellite images reveal the rapid progression of desertification in specific areas, highlighting the need for immediate and decisive action. In the Sahel region, satellite images show the encroachment of the Sahara Desert into previously fertile lands. Over a few decades, areas that once supported agriculture and grazing have turned into barren deserts. Similarly, in northern China, the Gobi Desert is expanding southward, encroaching on farmland and threatening the livelihoods of millions of people. The potential for desertification to become irreversible is a significant concern. Once the soil's structure and fertility are destroyed, it becomes extremely difficult to rehabilitate the land. The loss of vegetation and topsoil creates a hostile environment for plant growth, making natural regeneration nearly impossible. As the land degrades, it becomes more susceptible to further erosion and degradation, creating a downward spiral that is hard to reverse. Governments, organizations, and individuals must work together to implement sustainable practices, restore degraded lands, and support affected communities. The window of opportunity to address desertification is closing, and the time to act is now. Chapter 7: Solutions and Hope, Fighting Back. Despite the challenges, there is hope. Around the world, successful initiatives and projects are combating desertification and restoring degraded land. Sustainable land management practices, such as agroforestry and crop rotation, are proving effective in preserving soil fertility and preventing erosion. Water conservation techniques, such as rainwater harvesting and drip irrigation, help manage water resources efficiently. Reforestation and afforestation efforts, where trees are planted to restore and expand forests, are crucial in stabilizing the soil and improving the local climate. Empowering local communities is key to these efforts. In Ethiopia, the Tigray region has seen remarkable success in reversing desertification through community-led initiatives. Local farmers, supported by NGOs and government programs, have built terraces, planted trees, and implemented sustainable farming practices. The result is a transformed landscape with improved soil fertility and increased agricultural productivity. Positive and inspiring stories like these instill hope. Everyone has a role to play in the fight against desertification. Make sustainable choices. Adopting a plant-based diet or reducing meat consumption can lessen the pressure on agricultural land. We as individuals need to contribute to the global effort To combat desertification and protect our planet's future,